Hey WebDev, so the Recreation 3 assignment guidelines are now posted, so I wanted to go through them really quickly just to make it extra clear what's expected since I didn't have a chance to do that in class. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Recreation 3, the fixed header assignment, and I'm going to click on the guidelines here. Okay, so similar to other recreation assignments, you're going to be trying to recreate a finished web page, but a lot of the code is already written for you here. So right off the bat, this assignment's a little different because I have provided a starter CodePen link here. So I'm going to click on that in just a moment, but let me start by doing a very quick summary of what the finished pages look like. So here is the completed page. So there is a fixed menu bar up at the top with the logo on the left and the menu over on the right, very similar to what we did in class yesterday. And if I scroll down, you can see that there's always this back to top button that's hanging out in the bottom right corner of the screen. If I click on that, it should take me up to the top of the screen. Additionally, these links here should take me to their respective sections. Okay, great. And then let's take a look at the mobile version of this just to see how some of the top bar layout settings should change. So if I'm shrinking the page width, the menu should wrap so that the entire menu goes below the logo here. And also there's a little gap here, which is also present right before they wrap. So these two don't end up touching. They wrap just before. There's a Flexbox property called gap, which you can use for that. But then, yeah, everything else is already pretty much set up here. In this assignment, let's look at the starter code now. So this is the completed version. Let's look at the starter code. So the starter code is pretty similar. Like it's already, for the most part, complete, except for, the top bar is no longer fixed and the logo is not, separate from the menu. Like the menu needs to be over on the right and all that stuff. Also, these links, when I click on them, they don't take me to the sections. And then also that back to top button is not here. It's on the page, it's just I have to scroll all the way down, and then here's that back to top button in the very bottom left corner. And when I click on it, it does technically, take me back up to the top, but it doesn't scroll smoothly to it. So that's another part of this. There's this smooth scrolling behavior whenever I click on any of these links. And that needs to be replicated here as well. So yeah, again, a lot of this code is already in place. You're going to be spending most of your time in the CSS. So let's go look at the starter code a little bit more closely. So in the getting started here, you can go right ahead and just click on create a new pen or use the starter CodePen. So I'll click on that. And this will take me to the page, the starter page we just looked at, but it's already in CodePen. So what I recommend doing is clicking on this link, looking at it here, and then immediately saving the sketch. So I'm, editing this HTML right now, and I'm going to hit Control S or Command S on a Mac. And saving it is going to save a copy to your CodePen because I don't want you to spend a bunch of time editing the code. Meanwhile, you're editing mine the entire time. So there's a chance that you'll lose your progress. So before you start, save your sketch. If you see Doug Rossman in the top left corner, that means you are not working on your own copy. So first thing, save it. Okay. Next up, I made it very clear how to follow the guidelines by putting these little fill-in notices everywhere. So there's only one in the HTML. This is the only place that you need to change anything in the HTML. In the CSS, there's many more of these. So we have a fill-in here, and every place you see a fill-in, there's going to be some comments that explain what exactly you need to do. So I'm going to open up the guidelines and have these off to the side over here. so that we can kind of scroll through and see, like, oh yeah, these guidelines, they're a summary of what you need to do, but all of the comments in the CSS more or less tell you all of this stuff. So real quick, let's just look at these. So, your code shouldn't have any errors, your code needs to be neat, and your code should, function the same, which means like if you click on the links, they should go to the right place. This is all the usual stuff, but then the specific stuff is there should be no instances of the pixel unit in your CSS. And that is also covered over here. So like anywhere in the CSS that you see the pixel unit, swap it out for either rem or m. And then it even tells you more or less how to go about doing that. The top bar header should be fixed to the top of the viewport. By the way, I've been using this term viewport in the guidelines, which is the technical way of talking about the screen. You should use Flexbox to achieve the following. So again, you can use this checklist if you want, but you would be just fine going in the CSS, looking at the fill-ins, and then following whatever it says here. So, yeah. So I'll let you all go through these. Yeah. In CodePen, if you're trying to find these, you can do Control F or Command F if you're on a Mac and like search for fill-in, and it will take you at least to the next one. Fill-in, so if you're looking for this fill-in, you can like search for it, which is kind of nice. Okay, and then yeah, everything else about this assignment is the same as all the other recreations. Just go through and match everything as closely as possible. You lose half a point for each of the guidelines that you miss, and then all these other points taken off for the usual stuff. And yeah, if you scroll down on the guidelines page, there are screenshots of each version, the desktop and the mobile version, but you'll be fine kind of going through the video. I would maybe use that, but yeah. Also, the screenshots don't have the back to top button on them because my screenshot program doesn't photograph that. So just keep in mind there should be a back to top button in the bottom right corner. There's also the starter HTML and CSS here if you wanted to just make a fresh CodePen and copy and paste from these, but you don't have to do that. You can just click on that CodePen link, Recreation 3 Starter. Okay, it's all here. And, if you're stuck or having a hard time, you can, of course, go back to the code from class this week where we cover, the fixed positioning stuff, the Flexbox stuff. On this fixed positioning page, it goes over how to link to things within a page again. Also, the lecture recordings are now up, so you can always go back and review those. Last thing I want to point out in this video is again a reminder that the here we are. Yep, we have the free Code Camp 4 assignment that's due next week. By the way, again, I forget if I mentioned this at the beginning, but the recreation is due Tuesday of next week, not Monday, because I'm putting this up a day late. I apologize for that. So I'm giving you all an extra day to get this done. So it'll be due the day after class, next Tuesday. In addition to that, in the free Code Camp, there's also an optional reading assignment to read through these guides to Flexbox. So this will also supplement what you learn from your free Code Camp tutorials. So I have two guides here, the Interactive Guide to Flexbox by Josh W. Como, and then the complete guide to Flexbox on the CSS Tricks website. This one here on Josh's page is really great. I recommend just kind of taking time reading through this and playing around with some of these interactive elements. There's kind of a lot here, and it gets into some of the more advanced stuff with Flexbox that we're going to touch on in class next week. But I do, think that this is like a helpful, way to see what's possible with Flexbox, because it's kind of hard to, look at something like this and you look at like all of these boxes like we were doing in class. Oops. It's kind of abstract. So Josh's page puts things into a little bit more of a real world situation type of thing. And all these interactive elements are really neat. So anyway, there's no required anything with this page, so you don't have to read this, but I strongly recommend it if you want to get good at Flexbox. So, okay, that's it from me. I hope the assignment guidelines are clear enough for Recreation 3, and have a great week. I'll see you all next Monday.